Get ready to take a look behind the scenes and enter the impossible for the Between Two Minds podcast with our hosts, Judge Mentalist and Bernardo Rodriguez. Can they really tell you what you're thinking?
Good afternoon, everybody out there in Facebook and YouTube world. This is Judge Mentalist coming at you with another one of these fun podcast episodes. This is the first in our what will be a long series of fun, entertaining, and educational podcasts to some extent, previewing speakers for the upcoming Performing Hypnosis Summit. For anybody who somehow does not know, that is the end of July or January. Whew, I should, I go off cuff so much that I just say the wrong thing sometimes. And January, one of those J months, the cold one, but we will be in sunny-ish Las Vegas, Nevada. I am here with Jesse Lewis, who has two talks coming up at the PHS.
Yeah, two talks. Good afternoon, Judge. Let's start off. Where do we want to go with this?
Well, let's tell people a little bit about you. Let's get into your background. I think that it's important, maybe to a small extent, maybe a large extent to some, to get into your history and how you've gotten to where you are, which qualifies you to tell people and teach people things that they are absolutely going to want to learn at this upcoming PHS.
Okay. I'm going to give you the abridged version because the long version is kind of weird. But back in 2007, I was working on a tractor, injecting pig manure, believe it or not, into fields for fertilizer. And I was working about 400 hours a month. I read a book about hypnosis by William Horton, I believe, and learned how to hypnotize myself. Saw several stage hypnosis shows in school. And once I learned how to hypnotize myself, fast forward about 3 months, I got my girlfriend at the time pregnant. I didn't want to be working 400 hours a month anymore. And I decided to go into stage hypnosis, read Jeff Ronning's book, and went and did my first bar show. And since then, I quit that job 6 months later. That's how long it took to get fully booked, enough to fix my income. So I was good. And I haven't stopped ever since. It's been going and going and going. So yeah, we all have origin stories, and mine started with pig manure.
Pig manure. Fantastic. Yeah. I definitely don't have pig manure as I sit here and just run through the history of my life. Really haven't come up anywhere. So yeah, definitely
You're lucky.
Unique. So you're coming up on close to 20 years of doing this full-time professionally, and it is your day job, your night job, your everywhere in between job.
Yes, I do have a separate business that I run that's still in the events industry. I run 2 food trucks all summer long, and that's my summertime. And my wintertime really is, I do hypnosis shows across Western Canada, from Vancouver all the way to Thunder Bay. And Richard Cole takes from there east pretty much. So it works out pretty good.
Fantastic. And we'll have Richard Cole on here. We had him back in Michigan. We will have him again because he is the keynote presenter at the upcoming Performing Hypnosis Summit. So what are you sharing with folks at PHS this year?
So I'm going to share 2 talks. The first one is on marketing, and it's really the only thing that actually matters. I know some really, really crappy entertainers that are fully booked. I know some really good entertainers that have 2 shows a year. And the only difference is the confidence in marketing. And I'm going to be honest here. We all say we're the greatest hypnotist ever. I'm not the greatest hypnotist ever. I am somewhere in the middle. And very few of us will actually admit that. So the marketing talk, the first one, it's all going to be about basically, and this is going to sound weird, but how to actually disqualify clients so you're building your business long term. Sounds weird, but if you're only doing $300 bar shows for 50 years, guess what? That's not really a career, because I guarantee you have to have a separate job if that's what you're doing. It's about finding those clients that make sense to build a long-term career with versus going out and doing 400 shows a year, which just isn't sustainable. at any level. The secondary talk that I'm doing is all about how to promote a show and using that as a promotional tool to also book other shows instead of just pushing stuff out via social media and hoping to book shows that way. It's about using the shows you already have to go on and sell the tickets and book more shows as well. So yeah, that's the basic breakdown of it.
I would say that there are very few performing hypnotists that I have run into that won't find some sort of benefit in what it is you're offering. And I can tell you from my own experience that what you think is an oddity in the way that you describe it, qualifying and or disqualifying venues, clients, whatever you want to call them, is not an oddity, because I do a fair amount of fundraiser shows. And I will tell you that one of the things that I have learned over the past year is that some of these groups are just not ready to fill a room. And some of them, it's like flipping a switch for them. So being able to determine the difference between the two, I can tell you where I'm going to be. I don't know when, because they haven't dropped the schedule yet, but these are things where, even though I've had a fair share of experience with it myself, I know there's going to be one little nugget in there that you're going to share with me that's just going to be like, boom, oh, that's a game changer. That's something that I overlooked. And, I have had shows where I have flown substantial distance and spent substantial time, had a great show, which is part of the game, but for such a small amount of people that it couldn't have possibly been worth it for the group financially to do it. They didn't lose money, but every time you see empty seats, and I don't mean a couple of them scattered here and there, but every time you see empty seats, that's dollars that group didn't make. And I know that everybody has a different kind of pay structure and pay scheme on these, but like for me personally, I have a rate that caps at a certain number. Yep. And once that number is hit, every empty seat is 100% money for that organization. I'm not taking an extra dime on selling 10 more tickets beyond a certain point, but I'm not doing fundraiser shows because they're a relatively easy entry point. I'm doing fundraiser shows because I legitimately want to help these organizations raise money in an easy and entertaining way. I want those 10 seats filled. I want 20 more seats filled. I want people getting turned away from the show because there aren't enough seats for them. Like, I want the demand to be there, which in turn means that we're rebooking next year or maybe even sooner.
So this actually came up in one of the other groups I'm in. And the real problem for me is if there is a seat at a fundraiser that's not filled, that means I haven't served that client. That means that I have completely and utterly failed them. Like I said, the show doesn't have to be perfect. But if you're going to say, here's a fundraiser, I'm really upfront with my price. I'm $3,600 to bring in. I'm not cheap. So if I'm getting hired by the local Legion to come and perform for them for one show, that means I need to bring 200 people in at $20 a head. Otherwise, they're not making a damn penny off of the show. So, and it does happen. Don't get me wrong. But if me as an entertainer, me as an ethical business person, if I'm not doing my absolute best to promote that show and actually bring those people in, and often in the past, it's been shuffled off to our clients. Guess what? That guy named George that's running that Legion does 2 events per year. He has no flipping idea how to sell tickets. We're professional. Can I swear?
Please.
We are professional fucking entertainers. Yeah. It is our job to sell tickets. And it is baffling to me when I go into performer groups and they're asking, how do I get gigs? Well, prove you can sell a effing ticket. That's how you get gigs. Prove you can be a draw. Prove that you can actually not only do the show, but do the show business. And It has nothing to do with my ego to go out there and do a show. I don't care. Me, I'm up on stage. My volunteers are the stars of the show. And if there's a hypnotist that thinks they're the star of the show, they're full of themselves and they probably shouldn't be performing. The volunteers are the stars, and your job is to bring people in to that venue if it's a public venue. If it's a corporate venue or something else like that, well, it's your job to entertain. That's pretty much it. That's all you got to do. You don't have to promote. But even for things like grad shows, I've heard about low attendance at grad shows. Well, what did the performer do to actually get those kids coming in?
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me that we're in this business just to stoke our own egos. No, we are in this business to help others and really serve our clients. I'm rambling now, but it really bothers me when I see that in the industry. And that was the way it was for almost 40 years. People weren't actually servicing their clients. And I'm seeing a major shift.
And a lot of it comes from not just those groups not knowing how to promote, the entertainers not knowing how to promote, but even more so, like one of the things that I have always done and have found to be incredibly effective is having that understanding that George or whoever it is books 2 of these events a year and hangs up whatever he prints out on the wall of that legion and hopes that does the job. So these people don't know how to promote these events, and it takes a little bit, not a lot, because the ability, and I don't want to get too much into your talk, I want to get people to come to your talk at PHS, but the ability to, and again, I don't know exactly what the contents of your talk are, but I have learned so many different tricks to help these organizations make the task of selling the show incredibly small to sell a whole lot of tickets. And and obviously it's I'm not going to hide anything here. I'm giving them effective methods to leverage the membership that they have so that everybody there chips in, does a small part to fill a big room. And it's, just the tip of the iceberg of tools. If you're not giving, hey, go build me a shed, Jesse Lewis. There's a pile of wood out back, and that's all I'm giving you. The wood is good. There's nothing wrong with the wood. But if I don't give you the rest of the tools to put that bad boy together, you're not building me a shed. It's going to
look pretty bad.
It's a pile of sticks out there, right? And you can have the best wood in the world, the best show in the world. Again, you say that you've got a good show. You're not the best show. It doesn't matter how good the wood is. If you're not putting it together and you're not, putting it on, if you don't have the tools to build it, who cares how good the wood is?
That's exactly it.
All wood.
Yeah. I think there was, in our industry specifically, there was a huge disconnect between the old pros and the people coming in. You look at some of the real old pros, and I mean the real ones, like Ravine. He used to do a cross-Canada tour every couple of years, and then he'd come back, and he'd fill seats all the time. And he had the knowledge of how to actually fill those seats. Well, in today's world, who's really doing that? There's HipProv. Is there anybody else that's touring? Maybe Matt Hale down in Australia. But there's not really that many touring across a country and promoting not only their own shows, but the groups that they're working with in ways that actually sell tickets.
Yeah.
In February, I've got a 1.5 week long tour coming up. And I don't know if many in our industry would actually be able to do that because the knowledge isn't freely shared on how to do it. So part of my goal in life, I'm in this 20 years, so I'm probably going to die doing this at this point. So I'm not that old yet, but I don't intend on giving up. And I'm sick of seeing new people come in and not having a templated plan, not having a way to actually go get shows, and not being taught by people that actually care about their career. If we want our business, not just my business, but your business, our business, stage hypnotists, to reach the level of other entertainers, for instance, ventriloquists right now, they've been pretty high for the past 10, 15 years. Magicians are getting the same rates that we are now. So we were held back for a long time by this. I'm sorry, everybody that was in that old boys group, but that old boys group, there was only 12 people performing for like 40 years in the whole country. We were held back by that, and they wouldn't let their secrets out. It's like pro wrestling. They wouldn't let their secrets out. Kayfabe, right?
Yeah.
Well, that held the business back. And because of that, we are playing catch up in our industry. We really are. Grant mentioned it the other day on his podcast it wasn't Grant, it was Jim. But he doesn't know why there isn't a hypnosis shows playing in every major city in the country at least once a month or once a week, right? Well, the reason for that is because everybody was held back. Nobody let the secrets out. And you and me both know that hypnosis is the best form of entertainment in the world. I mean, we bring people up on stage, we do stupid things with them. And why would that be held back? Yeah, it was a money thing. It was to keep finances in those 12 people's pockets, but it's also really gatekeeping, and it's just a bunch of bullshit, to be quite honest. Let the information out there. Let people come into our industry that can actually work. And on top of that, when they are coming in, when they are being trained, maybe we should stop saying, go ahead, go and work for $300 like you did as a magician. Instead, charge $1,500 for your first show, because that's what you're fucking worth.
Yeah.
Because you are a hypnotist. You are a no-name headliner. Because I don't care what hypnotist you are. If you can perform a basic show, why are you not charging $1,500? Why are you going back to grads year after year after year and charging $900 and never increasing your prices? That's part of why the grad industry in the US.
Every other price is going up, so why shouldn't we, right?
Well, I know hypnotists from the 80s who have not raised their grad rates. From the 80s.
That's wild.
Like, what the flying potatoes? That's not how you grow an industry. That's how you completely destroy a market. And I saw it happen here in Canada, and it's slowly happening in the States.
It's it's why I'm incredibly happy, and I'm spending any time that I can doing things like this to help promote PHS, because I think between PHS, between the International Stage Hypnosis Association, these groups that are flipping that script. And again, it's as you've said, it's a trench that is dug relatively deep. So we got a lot of digging out to do to get this back up and on the positive side. But fortunately, the live and in-person PHS, Isha, both of these are tackling this task, which is not a flip a switch. Okay, cool. Tomorrow, everything's going to be great. And we're all going to be working for what we're worth and everything like that. But you make an incredible point. And if I've got magic watchers watching this, poo-poo, I'm sorry, but we're doing real work on stage, showing people real miracles, not sleights and tricks and gags. And there's nothing wrong with what you're doing, but what we're doing is better, which is why I have jumped over to where I am and am not turning back. I love every minute that I'm sitting up on stage and having fun, empowering people to be stars, and taking them on a journey that they'll never, unless they go back to this same place, they're never going to experience this. And I they're each and every person up there on that stage is just they're in their own adventure, and they're not. There was a time early when I was new where I was like, oh, this is so cool. I'm doing 2 shows at the same time. No, if you've got 8 people up there on stage, you are doing 9 shows at the same time. And it's awesome. It's fantastic.
So I have no disrespect for magicians, but I'm going to ask them the exact same thing I'm asking the hypnotists. Why are you going out and working for pizza? Aren't you better than that? Why are you going out and working for... There's books from the 1960s that talk about $75 birthday parties. From the 60s. Now, how many magicians do you know that would work for $75? Because I personally know some that will work for the pizza at the end of the freaking birthday party.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying to not do that. I'm saying to value yourself.
I book shows in a local market where I bring in touring performers, magicians, and I love it. I love it because I want the thing. And some of the rates that I get for some mind-blowingly amazing performers, I'm like, sure, you want to do 2 shows? You want to do 3? Do you want to do the public stage show and I'll bring you back to my private parlor and you could do a show for 20 people? Because the rates are so, like, sometimes I feel bad at how little I'm paying some of these people, but I know that, hey, somebody's going to charge me a real number, and the money that I'm making here, I'm going to roll into booking the bigger name. And not that even that is a bigger name or even a better name, but like, you're right, like, charge more. And I see a lot of this on gig sites where there's just this race to the bottom on price. And it just, I sometimes I feel bad for the performer that's quoting and undercutting prices. And I don't look at it from well, he or she is working and I'm going to take that day. But no, my day's worth more than $300. The 2 hours is worth more than $300 to me. And it also makes me question sometimes, because you don't always know who you lose the gig to. Most of the time you don't. Yep. Is that person who's buying that $200 or $300 entertainer never going to book this type of entertainment again because they just bought a bag of trash?
Well, you remember when I was talking about serving the client earlier?
Yeah.
So for $3,600, so I'm going to be honest here. I do not perform a lot. I perform about 30 to 35 shows per year. Do the math. My rate's $3,600. Equals about $100,000 after taxes. Okay. So that's all I want. I don't want more than that. I don't want to go out and perform more than that. But because I'm only doing 30 to 35 shows, I'm making really, really good money. Most people would think that's astronomical money, okay? As far as per show basis. But it allows me to actually serve my client. For $300, do you know how much extra time I would be able to put in for that client? None. Right. I wouldn't be able to serve them in any measurable way. We talk about gig sites, and I book off gig sites at that rate. Think about this from a client's point of view. They're an HR director or a company person. They're going on to the gig site, Event Active, Gig Masters, the Bash, whatever you want to call it. But they're going on the gig site and they're getting Rodney the Magician. I don't know who Rodney the Magician is, but just Rodney the Magician. And he's charging $160 for every gig he does, whether it's a birthday party, a corporate show, fundraisers, whatever. $160, he'll fly to you across the country. He's booked every day, 7 shows a day. Okay, that's fantastic. Or you get a message from Jesse Lewis. It says, "Hello, Rhonda. How can I help you with your party today? How can I help you achieve your goals? What are your freaking goals?"
Yeah.
And personalized care gets put into every single client versus Rodney, who's just spit it out. Yeah, his show's great because he's done it 700 times in the last 3 weeks, but he's not actually serving anyone.
Yeah, because if you're doing 7 shows a day, you don't have the time to talk to that client and be like, tell me about 4 or 5 inside jokes from within your organization. Let's say we're doing a corporate gig. So your focus is not on helping them sell tickets. There are no tickets. Tell me some inside jokes from the organization. Who are some key people here? Who can I expect to jump up here on my stage? And no, you're not picking them. You know who they're going to be. At least, 6 of the 10 or 12 or however many it's going to be. Give me the dirt. Give me the dirt so that I can craft your show. It's clear and apparent if you've seen any of these shows that no 2 shows are ever the same. But boy, oh boy, do I want to make your show absolutely your show and absolutely different. You can't do that doing stacking 7 of them.
That's exactly it. And even if you look at it, one of the pet peeves I have is that, well, those shows aren't out there. And this is what I mean about intentional disqualification. Those shows are there. I don't know how many corporations are in the US, but let's say even 10% of them have Christmas parties. Guess what? That's more entertainers than there is on the planet.
Yeah.
There are Christmas parties that do not get entertainment because there is no entertainers available. So how hard is it for us as an entertainer, any entertainer, I don't care if it's a magician, a hypnotist, a clown, to reach out to those corporations that have, let's say, at least 100 people in attendance? For hypnotists, that's a big hint to having a really, really good show.
Yeah.
Even a magician reaching out to a group with 100 people and doing a proper stage show versus walk around, you'll get $700 for. For a stage show, you can get rates like I get.
Yeah.
For a juggling act, you can get rates like I get for a group of over 100 people. So why are people targeting groups of 40 people who have maybe a $700-800 budget? Why are they targeting groups that have age demographics of 85 years old for hypnosis shows? I'm not saying that can't be done, but generally for someone my age, I'm not going to come across with that demographic as good as I would with people who are 40 and under.
Right.
You look at all these different things and you can begin to intentionally disqualify the market you're targeting. And the more you intentionally disqualify and go over that market to actually hit that target audience that you actually want with the budget you want, the easier it is to book, especially if you customize your show to them, especially if they know you actually give a shit about their event.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be preachy, but that's the issue I see with even old timers in the business have that problem is they haven't, people call it niching down, target audience, whatever it is. But if you're not going after a specific client or a specific type of client, then your marketing is going to be extremely hard forever. It's like shooting a shotgun. Okay. You shoot a shotgun, it's a great big pattern on the wall. Well, if you shoot a rifle, it hits dead target every time.
Yeah.
Instead of just shooting for everybody. Weird metaphor. Shouldn't probably use that one. Sure. But yeah. Yeah.
If I had a list of metaphors, I expected to come from a Canadian. Guns weren't on that list. So good on you for reaching what might be the market that you're looking for here. So obviously we know why we need to come see you at PHS. What else do you have going?
I'm launching Six Figure Entertainer, which currently doesn't have a lot of programs in it. It'll be launched in the next few weeks, but it's basically about how to go get your first shows, low-hanging fruit shows, the bar shows, the resort shows, that type of thing. There's also how to act on the phone, because let's face it, we're all scared of phone calls. We're scared shitless of what they actually do. Well, if you serve your client on the phone, guess what? Chances are you'll book them. We've also got email programs in there, how to get normal publicity for entertainers. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Basically, it's how to get up to six figures within a reasonable amount of time. And it does take more than a year to get there. But realistically, there's no reason that you can't be at six figures. Disclaimer, this is not a blah, blah, blah. I can't guarantee it. But if you put in the work, guess what? It's not that hard.
And look,
that's
here's the thing that I have learned, and most people should learn. And hint for you, if you are an entertainer and you have not learned this yet, then you need to look at your show. Is that the vast majority of people that you are A, easy to work with for, and B, do a good entertaining show. You don't have to be the best, you don't have to be great, but if you have a good entertaining show and you are easy to work with, you're getting rebooked. And that's a whole lot less work that you have to do year 2, 3, 4. And if you're not getting rebooked, you got to look somewhere else. And it's you might not be showing up for the marketing program just yet. But super important, super valuable stuff. Any last words before we let everybody go?
I do. I have dogged on doing low paid shows. Here is my thought process on this. If the bar that was 20 minutes away called me and said, I will give you $700 to do a show on a Wednesday night, guess what I would do? I would pack up my gear and I would go do that $700 show. And the reason for that is, yeah, it's $700. but I would also be serving my local market. You got to remember, I travel a long distance for what I make.
Yeah.
So if you are just wanting to work local, yeah, you can do those cheap paying gigs. But there's also an old saying, and that is you are never famous in your own hometown. So always remember that the next town over, they will say, holy shit, a hypnotist is coming in. Holy shit, a magician's coming in. Whereas if you're doing a party for your neighbor next door, they're going to say, oh yeah, Joe's going to come over and do some magic tricks.
Exactly. Yeah, I find it easier to sell tickets on the road than home. I mean, I don't have problems selling tickets at home, but boy, oh boy, is it easier to be that new shiny object that they haven't seen before or haven't seen something like it in quite some time. So
yeah.
Awesome. I appreciate your time. I'm so looking forward to not only attending your sessions, but sitting down with you between sessions and just talking shop, talking business. It looks like we've got a lot of mental connections that line up quite well, and just sharing ideas and everything like that. So Jesse Lewis, everybody, 2 talks at PHS, sixfigurentertainer.com is coming soon. Be at PHS. If you haven't attended a convention and you're an entertainer, there are things, if you're a magician and you want an excuse to go to Vegas and learn how to book more gigs, all of the same shit's going to apply to you. So come to PHS, come to Jesse's talks, all the other ones, because here's the thing that most people don't understand, and I didn't understand until I went to my first hypnosis convention. We're not teaching you how to hypnotize people. The presumption is that you already know that. This is the real work and the stuff that we're learning. You know, you're going to learn about how to set up sound. You're going to learn how to set up your show and program your show, how to market your show, how to promote your show, every element of it, how to book shows, all of it, super valuable no matter what you're doing. If you're a musician, you're going to get benefit out of this conference. And I'm not encouraging you to come if you're a musician and do this, but why not? You get to hang out with a cool group of people. You get to go to Vegas. It's probably cold where you are in January, and it's a bit warmer in Vegas, and hang out with us cool people. So thank you so much, Jesse, for your time, and we'll see you in Vegas.
Fantastic.
Thank you for tuning in to the Between Two Minds Behind the Scenes podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media under Between Two Minds with the number 2 instead of TWO, or under Enter the Impossible. Thank you, and we hope to see you back for the next episode.